I think I think that there's no reason why not to begin. Uh, Rav Meir, you have the text.
Rav Moshe David has the text. I sent it to him. He's supposed to put it
Yeah,
up.
Yes,
yeah, no,
I have the text, so I
You
will
you
have
read
the
have.
it.
text.
Yes.
Okay, you are Rav Moshe David. You look nearly like him.
Just give me a second and I'll find it on the screen.
He 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 had something very urgent tonight, which he had to lead the conversation in his where he lives.
Not about Trump.
Not about Trump at all. Okay, these are very small letters. Can you make them bigger? Yes. Okay, so I agreed with our mayor that I will start, and then he will join in, and we will see how this will develop. Um, so I don't know if you remember where we are in the book of Genesis, Bereshit, but we we are at a very exciting point. I remind you what has happened. What happened already 2 weeks ago was that uh, Yaakov, our forefather, he received blessings instead of Esav, and Esav was very angry at this, and he said in his heart that when the days of mourning for my father are at hand, then I will kill my brother Yaakov. And then Rivka, the mother, she somehow hears about this, and she sends him away. And she says that he has to go until Esav's fury is turned away and he forgets about what has happened. And then he also receives the real blessing from his father Yitzchak, the blessing of Abraham, and he goes away, and he's away a long time, for 20 years, and he leaves with a lot of blessings and a lot of promises, but he doesn't really have anything. He leaves without anything at all, and he, if you remember the beginning of last week's portion, he falls asleep, and he has this famous dream with the ladder and the angels ascending and descending on the ladder, and there God promises him that "Ushmarticha b'chol asher telech," that I will take care of you, I will preserve you wherever you go, until you come back again to the land. And then he goes, as we remember, he goes away to the brother of his mother, Rivka. He goes to Lavan, and there he works for the 20 years. He gets married with Rachel and Leah, and he gets a lot of cattle, a lot of processions, and then he is ready to go back, and now again he receives a promise from God, and God says to him again that that he will be with him. He tells him now is the time to go home, and God again repeats that he will be with him when he goes home. And he comes back, and then we have this story, the beginning of our portion, that he sends malachim, he sends those who say that they are messengers or spies, or he wants to find out what is the situation. What is the situation with Esav? And this is what we now are reading in verse 7. The messengers returned to Yaakov, saying, "We come to your brother Esav. He himself is coming to meet you, and he retinue numbers 400. That is, he's bringing with him 400 400 people. These are not, this sounds pretty, this is a small army that he's bringing with him. He's coming to meet you, but it sounds pretty. You can't really know what are his intentions. Has he really still got the fury, or what are his intentions? And what is Yaakov's reaction? His reaction is Yaakov vayira Yaakov me'od. Yaakov was greatly frightened, and this is not a good translation. And he was frightened, and he was anxious also. You can see the translation down in the Midrash, further down. The Midrash says he was frightened and distressed. He was very frightened. He wasn't only frightened, he was very frightened and distressed. Back again to the verse, so we just read it up there. And what does he do? He divides the people he has with him, and the flocks and the herds and the camels, into two camps. So when you invest something, you need to divide your investment sometimes, so that at least one part will survive. Now, this is what we read. And now we come to the Midrash, which we want to study today. And I'll read through the Midrash and try to explain a little. Yaakov was very frightened and distressed. Rabbi Yehuda ben Eli said, "The fright and the distress are not the same. Rather, he was frightened lest he kill, and distressed lest he be killed. He said, if he overcomes me, he will kill me. And if I overcome him, I will kill him." That is, he was frightened lest he kill, and distressed lest he be killed. So we see here a very interesting interpretation, that the fright and the distress are two different things. The Midrash says to us that he is frightened, that he assumes that there's going to be a battle and one is going to win this battle. And he's frightened that he will win the battle and that he will kill Esav. He doesn't want to do that. And of course, he's also distressed that Esav will win the battle, and of course, he doesn't want to be killed. So therefore, there are no good options here. It's a lose-lose situation. And this is a very famous expression, which clings, for those of you who know well the history of the States of Israel. Some of you will remember that this was an expression which also was used, although I'm not sure that she knew the source for it, by Israel's very famous female prime minister, Golda Meir. Golda Meir said the following. She said, "We can forgive the Arabs for killing our sons," which means, of course, we don't want that. We don't like that. And we fight our wars in order that they shouldn't kill our sons. But in the end, we will be able to forgive them for killing our sons. But we will never be able to forgive them for forcing us to kill their sons. That this is something which is unforgivable. That they bring us by the whole time making wars on us and not making peace, not be willing to make peace, that they force us to kill their sons. And this is like the same, this is the association I have from this expression from Yaakov, that he is he's also very, very much frightened that he will come to kill Esav, which he doesn't want to do. And of course, he's frightened for his life that he will be killed. And now we continue. He said, all these years, Esav has been residing in the land of Israel. Say that he comes against me by virtue of his residence in the land of Israel. All these years he's been residing and honoring his parents. Say that he comes against me by virtue of his honoring father and mother. And so he said, the days of mourning for my father will approach, so that this old man died, and he will come against me to kill me. And what is the Midrash here saying to us? I think the Midrash here comes and tries to answer a question. The question is the following. Why should Yaakov Avinu be afraid that Esav should kill him? Yaakov Avinu was promised, as we mentioned, already when he left the land, that God will preserve him, that God will be with him. And God was with him all the 20 years. And he overcame many, many obstacles. And also now, when he came back, and we'll see this a little later, when he came back and God says to him that you should return to the land of your fathers, to the land of your birth, also there, God says, I will be with you. So if God says, now that he will be with him just a couple of days ago. Why should he be afraid that Esav will kill him? Why should he be afraid of that? So the Midrash doesn't pose the question, but it's implicit that this is the question. And the Midrash answers the following. He's afraid because Esav has been doing mitzvot. Which mitzvot have Esav been doing? He's been residing in the land of Israel. It's a very big mitzvah to live in the land of Israel. Yaakov fled away. He was in Chutz La'aretz all that time for 20 years. So while he was in Chutz La'aretz, Esav, he stayed in the land of Israel. So he has 1 point for him. It's a reason why he should why he should come on the upper hand. Not only that, but Esav has an even bigger mitzvah, another very big mitzvah, and that is that he honors. We know that from the stories in the Torah that he respects his father and his mother, not only his father Tikva, but the Midrash said that he also respects his mother. We know how much he respected his father, how he took care of him always, and so on, but also his mother. So he, for 20 years, did the mitzvah of honoring his father and his mother, and Yaakov didn't do anything. For all these 20 years, couldn't fulfill the mitzvah of kibud av va'em, of honoring the father and the mother. So therefore, he was afraid that he would not have these mitzvot, and that therefore Esav would have the upper hand and kill him. We'll continue. There's a lot of work here. I have a lot of more comments to this, but I won't say it now. Rabbi Yehuda ben Rabbi Shimon said, "This is what the Holy One, blessed be He, said to him, return to the land of your fathers, to the land of your birth." God, this is what we mentioned before. God was the one who, after 20 years, said to him, now is the time to go back home, to go back to Israel. Say that the stipulations were until here, and he will protect me on this path. Now, the quote here is not from where he says return to the land, but it's from when he left the land. That's what the Midrash quotes. I'm not sure why the Midrash quotes this and not the more recent quote, which was just a couple of days before that. But he will protect me on this path, which was the promise at Bet El with the ladder, when that he would promise him that he would preserve him the whole time on this path and not beyond that. Rabbi Yudan said, the Omnipresent said to him, return to the land of your fathers, but nevertheless, Yaakov was very frightened. Now the Midrash explicitly asks the question, which we said was implicit before. How come that Yaakov, who got this promise and was now asked to go back to the land of the fathers, how come that he was frightened? He shouldn't be frightened. He had a divine promise that everything would, that God would be with him, that everything was okay. So we learn from that a principle. From here we learn that there's no promise to the righteous in this world. From here we learn that even righteous people like Yaakov Avinu, and even that there still can be things which go wrong, and therefore you can never be sure, even that God has promised him that he will preserve him, and even that Yaakov was a tzaddik, was a righteous person, there is no promise. You have to always look at the circumstances. You have to see the dangers there are around you, and there is no such thing as promise to the righteous in this world. Rav Huna said in the name of Rabbi Acha, behold, I am with you. If God will be with me, that's the same thing. Rather, from here we learn that there's no promise to the righteous in this world. It's the same story. Avuna said in the name of Rabbi Acha, he said, "For I will be with you." Now, he learns the same principle, but from a total different story. There's a story about Moshe Rabbeinu, about Moses, that Moses stands at the burning bush, if you remember, and there God says to him that Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't want to go on this mission, which to bring out the Israelites from Mitzrayim, and God says to him, "You can go safely, for I will be with you, and nothing evil will harm you." But in any case, what we saw was that something evil did harm him. It was on the way, in the lodging. They were in the hotel on the way, in the lodging, and the Lord encountered him and sought to kill him. He was about to be killed on the way. And what happened? In the last moment, he was saved by his wife, who made the Brit Milah on his son. So because he hadn't made the Brit Milah on his son, he didn't think that you had to make the Brit Milah when you were on the way, and it was dangerous on the way. So that's why he hadn't yet made the Brit Milah, and therefore his wife, fast, she made the Brit Milah, but he was about to be killed, and that was right after God had promised him, "For I will be with you, and nothing evil will harm you." So Rav Huna said in the name of Rabbi Acha, this is where we learn that there is no promise to the righteous in this world. That even Moshe Rabbeinu, the biggest leader we've had, the biggest prophet we've had in Israel, even there's no promise. If things can go wrong, and he was about to be killed if Tzipporah hadn't saved him. So he learns it from that, and the other rabbi, he learns it from Yaakov Avinu, that there's no promise to the righteous in this world. You have to look at the circumstances. You can never have an overconfidence, and you have to look at the circumstances around you. And therefore, he was right. It was all right that he was afraid, that he took the necessary precautions. That was all right. So with this short introduction, I went through the Midrash, and now I will let Rav Meir take over, and then we can maybe play it little back and forwards later. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for teaching us this. I want to explain it more. I would rather like to ask some questions on this, if that will be fine. My first question is the following. There is something problematic with the fact that God promises and the promise isn't kept. We understand, and the Midrash says again and again that there are no promises for the righteous. Even if they got a promise, it's not sure that that promise will be kept. And the Talmud says, and perhaps you said it to it again now, that it might be that they will make some severe sin, and because of that, the promise won't be kept. And keeping promises is important. But so that's sort of one question, the actual fact that the promise isn't kept. But let's say that we can do with that. And there is such an idea. You're a righteous man, and if you would sin afterwards, you're not righteous any longer, and perhaps you can't get what was promised to you. But there is a greater problem, and that is we have lots of promises, not for a single person, even, or a single prophet. Yaakov is also like a prophet, but we have promises for the people of Israel, not only for the people of Israel, also for mankind as such, or different peoples in the books of our prophets. And we sort of, they're an important part of our belief. And Rambam, in his introduction to the Mishnah, he turns to this Midrash and some similar other words of our sages, and he tries to divide it in two parts. And he says, as I said beforehand, I think, that we can say this idea with one single person. There are no promises for the righteous. But, says the Rambam, I read it now, it's not before you, but it is to be known that this matter is only between the Holy One, blessed be He, and the prophet, this single individual. However, that the Holy One, blessed be He, should say to the prophet to promise a good proclamation to people is an absolute statement without any condition, and it is not materialized. Such a thing is null. That is, I will try to explain. I didn't read it really so correct. He says it can't be. It's impossible that if there is a promise that for a group of people and so on, that this could be nullified for any reason. Now, the Rambam gives a reason for this, and he says that we see in the Torah, how do we know if what the prophet says is true or not? There are false prophets. How do we know that we have a true prophet in front of us? And the answer is that we can sort of test him. We can see whether what he says will come true or not. And then the Rambam says, but if all promises by the prophets can be nullified because perhaps the people doesn't behave, it should behave, then there's no way to test the prophet. because we might say, okay, it didn't come true because something happened. Sometimes promises do not come true. And therefore the Rambam says, therefore he says, I'm only able to say this idea concerning an individual person. And I would like, and I hope the great, great, great teacher of ours, the Rambam, excuses me, I would like to give another explanation to that. I do agree to what the Rambam said, that let us not use this idea concerning the prophecies to the people as such. And he says, because then we have no way to find out if it's a true prophecy or not. But I think you could say something else as well. We, through history, we breathe through these promises. They are parts of our great hope. And if our great hope, that is, that in some future, hopefully, there will be times of the Messiahs, that's it what the prophets speak about. There will be a time of peace. There will be a time where there is no oppression. It's a time of truth, and so on and so on. And I say, this I'm not. I don't want it to be a conditional promise. If in some way we can say that there is a sin or something that has influenced HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he says, well, the promise won't be kept. So I think this is important to stress, because I don't think we are able to live without that hope. A hope about this world, in some sense, will be better. And that is a promise which is unconditional, I would like to say. There is there's a Swedish song of the students, and it's you sing it in springtime, and you say, "Hoppet, ja hoppet är vår vän." The hope is the friend of ours. And that might be true for the students, but I think it's very true for the Jewish people. We need this hope. And therefore, I think it's important to stress that this idea of Yaakov being frightened because he should know that there are no promises for the righteous. Okay, I've already said that. That's one point, and I would, if you want to comment that, you're welcome. Then I have another one afterwards.
Let's continue.
Okay, or someone else here. The second thing is I feel a bit pity for Yaakov in this Midrash, because his situation is tragical. It's too serious, because he will go around always. I hope you will answer me, but he will go around always and say, there's no future for me. Whatever I might think would happen, if I do a mistake, if I do something wrong, my future is gone, because all the promises that I know about, I don't know about, they won't be true. Let's say, is this a way in which a man can have a motivation for life, for his different choices, his different way of living day after day, to know that there's no promise for a righteous? Wouldn't it be better that we, like the Rambam says in another place, someone thinks that it might be in something that Rav Nachman from Breslav Rambam says in Hilchot Teot, a person should live with joy and simcha. And I'm not sure if Yaakov, in the idea of the Midrash, is able to live with joy. As a matter of fact, I think that might even be the case in the pshat of the plain meaning of the. I don't know. Do we ever see Yaakov smile? Perhaps when he meets Rachel at the first time, he seems to be very happy to meet her. But apart from that, he sort of his life isn't very happy. And if he should be kind of an example for us when we study the Midrash doesn't want to say something about Yaakov, he wants to tell us something. And if the Midrash says that you should go around and feel that there's no promise for you, it seems to be a bit pessimistic. So I sum up, okay? The first question was that, like the Rambam says, that perhaps we shouldn't say this about the people as such, but it might be about the individual, but also perhaps about the individual. Is this really a good way of? It's a heavy responsibility. Perhaps it is. Anyhow, okay.
Okay. So I'll say a couple of things. First of all, about Yaakov's life and so on, we know that when he summed up his life and when he came to Pharaoh, in the end, he says the Me'at V'Ra'im,
Yes, yes.
that his days were fewer than his forefathers, and they were bad. It was a bad life he had had. It
Yeah.
was, and this in spite that he had just united again with Yosef and all the all. And he was the father of all the tribes, and he got everybody together and so on. So, but I'll relate to some things with again this thing of fear. You see this as a motive with Yaakov consistently, that Yaakov is always afraid. He's always afraid. Now, also that God has to say to him the whole time, "Don't be afraid, and I'm with you. Don't be afraid." Is it shows that maybe there's something to be afraid of. But I would like to say something about when he eventually meets with Esav, and he does all the preparations and he doesn't want it to be a battle. He doesn't want it to be a battle. One comes out the winning in the battle, but when he eventually meets him, it turns out very well. It turns out that they embrace and they kiss each other, and it's a true kissing, and it's and the and this is a thing which I think is very important to learn. There's the word panim, the word the face. It appears 7 times in in the in that chapter where he meets Esav, and to meet somebody face to face, we often have fears, and often have good reason for fears. I mean, Esav did want to kill him when he left, so there was a reason to fear. And I also have to say that even when God has promised that He will be with him, a human being, when we have a divine promise, that doesn't mean that you throw yourself into danger. You don't. We have a principle in Sumchim al Hanes, that you don't, God says, "I'll be with you." That doesn't mean that you don't take all necessary precautions. You do take precautions. So the question of the Midrash, the question why he fears is a questionable question. But the Midrash asks it, and the Talmud asks this question. But you can say it's a natural thing that you're afraid. He hears that Esav is coming towards him with 400 men, and it's a natural thing that he's afraid. But the question is, what do we do with our fears? And I think that how do we overcome? And this is also, I think, today a big issue in what's going on today in Israel and in the Jewish world and so on. How do we not become a slave of our fears? How do we not? How do we deal with our fears? And I think that the way we can deal with our fears is to meet face to face with the problem or with the other side or with the this. That often when you meet the other side and then you suddenly see, aha, the other side is a human being. We have a conflict with somebody. And you build up mountains of suspicions and so on, and suddenly you sit face to face and you look the other person in the eyes, and then you can kiss them and embrace them and you can come to terms. Because you suddenly see that there was, it suddenly evaporates, and you suddenly see that it's your brother. And I think that is very important. And the Rashbam explains that Yaakov was mistaken in his reading of the whole situation. He didn't read the map correctly. He didn't understand when the angels came, as we read in the pasuk. He says that Esav is coming to meet you. He's coming to you. He wants to meet you. He's not coming to make war with you. That's not what they said. He's coming to you. He's coming. He wants to reconcile with you. So I think that is a important point, and one of our big interpreters, the Malbim, he criticizes Yaakov for a lack of faith because of his fear. Now, that's taking it far. There are also other commentators who go in that direction. But he says he should read the map correctly. He should have trust in God, and it's the opposite of what I said before.
Yes.
But that's why we have different interpretations. But he says it was a lack of faith on the parts of Yaakov.
Yes, thank you. I think you stressed a thing that I would like to stress again, and then I turn to the fear and the importance of the beginning of the Midrash, which actually Rashi brings in four words or something, and that is these two expressions of fear. That the one fear is that he shouldn't be killed, and the other fear is that he shouldn't kill others. I think it's a true description, if I would go on today, of how I feel the soldiers that I meet. I meet my students as soldiers. I meet my sons, my son-in-laws. I meet people that I hear on the radio, soldiers here in Israel, of course, and all over. And I'm sure the way I know them and I hear them, that they accept the ethical idea of Judaism that you are allowed to defend yourself. If someone stands up to kill you, you are allowed to stand up against him. That we think is correct within Judaism, and it's correct today as well. But it could have been that if you stand up and you start sort of making war, that you become a killer. You become someone that is sort of a fascistic way of thinking. But I think, Baruch Hashem, perhaps we have this people has educated itself through the ages without armies, saying that when you meet war, you fear to kill. You have to fight, but you should fear to kill. And I think, Baruch Hashem, that is the case. Very far from what we have heard, people crying in the streets against us. But I think it is in that way, and we should lift up this banner that we are afraid of killing others. We should be afraid of killing others, even if we have to make war in order to defend ourselves. So this could be a kind of motto for us, that we are afraid for killing, and should be that way. And that's one thing I would like to comment. And the second thing is what you took up now, and sort of the other side of the coin, that fear as such, the fear of Yaakov, perhaps it's not needed. That's what you said, and that Esav came, and 400 men with him came. A delegation came in the honor of Yaakov, and Yaakov wasn't able, as you said, wasn't able to understand that, perhaps because he had a bad conscience. He stole the blessings from Esav, and he didn't. Inside, he was afraid. Now, so that might be the reason. But what I wanted to add as well is to be afraid. There's a great Hasidic teacher, Meir Mordechai Leiner. He says that being afraid isn't the very inner part of ourselves. Within, deeper in the soul of man, deeper than the will or whatever to be afraid, we have the Torah as such. The Torah tells us what to do. Being afraid is sort of not to doing anything and feel very bad. But the Torah tells us what to do, and that these words of the Torah are within us much, much deeper than being afraid. And one should try to sort of bring that and up, and that is a great power of man. That's just about being afraid as such.
Okay, it's we've given now many different interpretations. There are everybody poses the question, and the Ramban, Nachmanides, he says exactly the opposite of the Malbim. While the Malbim says that it shows a lack of faith, that he's afraid, The Ramban says exactly the opposite. The Ramban doesn't understand at all why this is a question. Um, of course, he's afraid, and uh, there's a real threat, and he's afraid. Of course, he's afraid. Ramban and Radak and others. We have also a principle which we have in the first verse of Tehillim, of the Psalms, Ashrei HaMefached Tamid, that you should always, and this is the Ramban. Ramban says it's a natural thing. So this way we can see how the interpreters really go into into the nature of Yaakov, and I like the way you say. I don't know if he stole the blessings, but at least he did some things which were not straightforward.
Achisha bab bebirma, his father says.
Yeah, yeah, but he it wasn't straightforward. But his father immediately said, "Gam baruch yeh." He
Okay.
should also be blessed. He
That's
should be
another
blessed.
that's another discussion on another parashas.
Yes, it's another parasha. But he didn't go the straight way.
No, he didn't.
He didn't go the straight way. Yeah. Okay, I
No,
think
no, but it's interesting. I would like to say that the Ramban actually says that the basis of the Midrash isn't necessarily true. That is that when you have a promise, you shouldn't be afraid. It's very human to still be afraid. I
yes.
believe I have a promise, but I'm still afraid. And then there's no Midrash. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. I think that I don't know if there's any questions from anybody. Uh,
Yes, there is.
there
Paulina. No?
Yeah, I was just wondering if the because the Midrash doesn't talk about remorse, but couldn't being afraid also be combined with a deep sense of remorse because he feels that he has wronged Esau, and that is what he brings with him after those 20 years, even though his mother helped him do it. He was part of it, and maybe that is what also is a big part of his that he is being afraid.
Well, that's partly what Rav Meir said, that he had some bad conscience there. That's maybe parts of the remorse
You're right.
that he felt this.
I do agree.
Yes, yes. Michael has a question.
It's not a question. It's more a comment about this. Where you started out with the promises, and it's not for the godly promises, but I personally very much like the idea expressed in Tosfot that "En hanavi omer ela ma shera'ui liyot," that the prophet is talking about what is supposed to happen, what is should happen. If you have blanco check, God will do all that for you. You don't need to do anything. And so of course it's not a blank. I know you said that also, but it's a very special thing that you go say, oh, God promised that and that, and then therefore it will happen. It should happen, but it's up to us.
Yes, I think you're right. But still, I believe it will happen. I have a hope it will happen. I will do whatever I have to do. We should do. You're right. We should create a good society, and all that. But still, perhaps it won't happen. But I create a
But
good society, and tomorrow evil powers will
many many
bring it into
many
pieces. But we need
many
that
many
hope.
promises many promises did not come true. The 10 tribes did not come back, and
That's a machloket in the end of Masechet Sanhedrin. If they will come back, they won't come back.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
but many times when they were standing in the Bet Mikdash in the end of the first temple, they said, "We have a promise that nothing will happen in the Bet Mikdash," and they kept saying that, and
there was no such promise. They thought there was such a promise.
they thought that there was
Hashem.
such a
But I
promise.
speak about promises that were pronounced. And I think we have to believe that that will happen.
מה שראוי להיות, what that should be, it should come to happen.
Yeah.
That's the Tosfot. I think it's.
I don't know that. I have to look into it. Okay, I don't know that. But it's interesting. I have to try to find it.
It's yeah. It's not. Yeah, it's Tosfot. Yeah, yeah. I can send you the source.
Thank you.
Okay. So
As anyhow, there's a promise that this will end in an hour's time. We're past that now.
no, we are exactly
We
on
haven't
time.
not yet.
We're exactly on time. We
Okay.
keep our promises.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, thank you. I thank you very, very much, all of you, for participating. We even got a little discussion now out of it, and we will continue next week.